You're listening to
the Beer O'Clock, the Beer O'Clock Show.
You're listening to the Beer O'Clock Show.
It's Beer O'Clock and this is the Beer O'Clock Show. My name is Mark and joining me, as always, is my beer buddy Steve. Hello, Steve.
Hi Mark, how you doing?
I'm alright, mate. How are you?
This is, good.
If this sounds a little different to normal, that's because we've packed up the mobile studio and jumped on a train to Leeds. We're being joined by none other than the king of beer YouTube himself, Rob Hopzine. Hello, Rob.
How you doing?
Hi, Rob.
In the flesh.
I know.
He's
It's
in the room.
amazing, isn't it?
In the round. It's Beer O'Clock Show in the round.
The three of us, yeah. This week we're doing something a little special. It's again another episode from a listener brings beer for us to drink. Slightly the other way around, but it's the latest versions of DIPA from Cloudwater, fresh out of the box. It's DIPA 4 and DIPA 5, 2 double IPAs. What fun.
It's just perfect for you, mate, this is.
Yeah.
This is right up your street.
Before we get to those, what have you guys been drinking lately? Rob, let's start with you, mate.
As we're drinking some Cloudwater at the moment, I really enjoyed the Cloudwater collaboration with Magic Rock, the Freeze Company. So modern IPA, but using that JW Lees. Is it like 6,000 plus generation version?
Yeah,
of yeast,
it's a
something crazy.
ridiculous number.
I think that's fantastic. I mean, it shows the difference that yeast makes, but it also kind of hints towards this. I guess the beer that we've got in the glass, which is influenced by that stuff over in kind of New England and Vermont and stuff. So I really enjoyed that. Northern Monk Heathen, had plenty of that. I'd run on the way over on the train today. Love it. Love that. Probably my favourite beer from Northern Monk so far. Tiny Rebel Club Tropicana. Have you had it?
No, but I've heard lots of people talking about it.
It was somebody on Periscope mentioned to me to try it, and it's mental. It tastes so synthetic, but apparently it's just hops, and it's such an achievement. Is that Beavertown Boneyard? Bloody notorious, stunning.
Yep.
There's a pattern forming here, isn't there?
Yeah.
A lot of IPA.
Lots of IPAs.
And one which I really want to mention, Odyssey, Eldorado Fiend Light from Odyssey Brewco. Because that was recommended. I were on my way to Sheffield. I'd been looking on Twitter. I think it was Sparky Wright.
He mentioned it on last week's show, Odyssey. Yeah. And
he said it's his best new brewery. And I went into this shop in Sheffield. They had 2 bottles of this brewery left, and I picked one up. And if I hadn't seen that tweet earlier that day, I would have tried it, and I'm massively impressed by them. Very Colonel-esque. I don't think. Yeah, really impressed. I'm really excited about trying more stuff from those guys. But yeah, been quite hop heavy.
It sounds like it. In relation to that, I've not really had much this week because we're recording this quite close to last week's show. So all I did manage to get my lips around was Brewdog's latest incarnation of Mash Tag, and all I'm going to say is it's an absolute fucking mess. It's this horrible, sticky, sweet, boozy, burny thing in a glass, and it's certainly not something I'll be going back to again. That's for sure. But yeah, not really much else to shout about this week. I finished my evening in Brewdog with a couple of pints of Gamma Ray, which was tasting amazing after that mess of a mash tag. So yeah, a little bit like you this week, mate. I've not really been drinking that much.
I know, you got a mark.
I know, I've had a few nights off.
Yeah.
Bloody hell, not a bottle of Bishop's Finger hanging about in the background.
No.
Well,
I've only had 2 myself, and that was today while getting the train up here. Well,
Yeah.
one at one end, one at the other. So I had the Pepper Tree from Windsor and Eaton, which is kind of like a traditional saison. So not like the wanky crafty saison that we're getting these days. It's one of it's malty. It's got that yeasty notes in there. It was really nice. Only 4%. So pretty nice to get on the train with that. Well, I drank it before the train. And at the other end, in what's it called, Bondo Bus.
Yeah.
Where I met you guys, had vinification from Magic Rock, which is their white grape wheat, which 6.5%, I think, or something like that.
6.1.
Yeah, and that just, you saw me drink it, it just went down.
I actually forgot to mention that I had one of those as well, and I did, because I was a little bit unsure about it because it's a white grape wheat beer, which instantly I was like, I don't know. But Rich up at Little Leeds Beer House was like, no, it doesn't taste like a wheat beer. You've got to try it. And it's like boozy grape juice.
You get wheezy notes, but I think if did they actually put white grape into it, or are they just using the character of white grape? But it's taken that kind of.
I think it's using it's essentially that spent kind of like mulch you get from making wine.
Right.
And that's a bit of a current trend. Really.
It kind of takes the edge off the wheat beer notes, I think. So it was just incredibly drinkable.
Yeah, not Weiss beer, but I mean it's got.
Yeah,
I had a wheat beer last night. It was an old Buxton collaboration with Omnipollo, which I'd been knocking around my fridge for a while, and that was a wheat beer, a wheat ale, I guess. But you think a wheat beer, you think Weiss beer, you think wheat beer, don't you? I mean the many guises of wheat in beer.
Yeah, yes.
Right, should we get into one of the beers first? Because you do have 2 beers to get through, and they're both doubles. So we're going to start with the DIPA V4. Now both these beers have the same Hopzine, but apparently, and Rob's going to go into details on this, the characteristics or the differences is the hopping process.
Yeah, so the difference between the two is it's to do with when they're doing the dry hopping. This one is during the primary fermentation for a long time, especially for like home brewers out there. And this is what I learned as a home brewer, was that if you dry hop during primary fermentation, where the yeast is still active, that yeast will grab hold of or eat up kind of flavour and aroma compounds. And so that was always the fear. But I guess with something like this, which is meant to be quite protein heavy, it doesn't really matter. And I guess it's a bit of an adventure in the direction of like, will this work, or will it just like chomp up all those lovely things that we've come to love? But I think I'm going to, from looking at mine, I'm going to pour it all in because it's not half as cloudy as previous ones have been.
No, it's as clear as anything. I mean, look, mine is absolutely going nuts in that glass. The bubbles are screaming up the side of that glass.
It's protein in it, but it's going crazy.
It's properly alive. It's got this lovely, big, thick, fluffy white head on it as well. The aroma's just that's beautiful.
It's quite a clean looking beer, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's like you say, it's not cloudy.
No.
It's very clear. It's like a lovely dark amber coloration on it. Nose wise, there's all sorts of fruit going on in there.
Loads of mango.
Yeah.
Honeysuckle for me as well. I mean, we used to have a big honeysuckle plant out back of our place. Because it's kind of floral but sweet.
It's the mango that's the dominant flavour. There's a little bit of maybe orange and lemon sherbet in there for me as well.
Apricot.
Just on that. Let's
It's on the softer pale stone fruit side, I think. Peach apricot for me.
Shall we
Let's get into it, guys.
Cheers,
Cheers,
guys.
Look at that.
Something you don't normally hear.
It's still got the body that you've become to expect from these beers.
Oh yeah,
it's a foolish body.
It's thick. That's really flavoursome. It's a bit sticky. It's a little bit syrupy. It's not too bitter on the finish though.
No, not at all.
That's a really easy finish.
No, well, I mean, when you're in the back and you've got the aroma hops, which are the big names you get from all these kind of West Coast IPAs, so you have Citra and there you got Amarillo, Simcoe, Mosaic. But the main hop, the bittering hop is Pilgrim Alpha CO2, and I don't think I've ever had that before, extract.
They use that they've used that extract in, I think, probably since version 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's quite a very common practice, especially in America. I know Brewdog have used extracts for quite a long time in their bigger beers. A lot of people say it reduces the bitterness that you're going to extract from it, and also your yield of that beer, because you don't have any absorption, especially if you're using whole cone hops. It just soaks it up like a sponge. But with this, obviously, they want to get squeeze as much out of that batch of beer as possible.
I mean, well, for a DIPA, the residual bitterness just kind of doesn't stick around at all.
Yeah.
It just disappears. But you're getting your nasal cavities filled with the aromas of all these fruity, tropical flavours. It's really nice.
It's all really big, isn't it? Like everything about it is big. The aroma's big. The flavour is big, but it doesn't feel 9%.
No, it's quite lenient for a double IPA.
Yeah, you could. you could drink this and think, oh, that's quite a tidy IPA I'm drinking there, and actually then suddenly someone says to you, oh yeah, by the way, that beer you've been putting pints away of, it's 9%. So, but yeah, I mean that's incredible. That's really, really, really tasty.
So aroma hops on both these beers: Citra, Amarillo, Simcoe, Mosaic. I think it's a really nice blend of them all. I do definitely get a bit of the Simcoe and Mosaic, getting a little bit more dank, a little bit more kind of piney towards the back end.
Yeah, I'm not getting in too much of the Mosaic. I find that I tend to find that Mosaic for me comes across as being a little bit creamy, and I'm not really getting too much of that in there. Yeah, I always get a creaminess off of Mosaic, especially if it's especially when it's showcased as like a single hop. I kind of get this creamy sort of toffee flavour coming from it, and I'm not really getting too much of that. But for me, yeah, the Citra and the Amarillo are the ones that are shining in terms of the aroma that's going in there, and it's just all coming together beautifully.
I love it when people use Amarillo in beers. It's a hop that really gives you your value for money. It kind of gets a nice weight in it, and it's not more rounded flavours. It's not one of these huge bittering hops or hugely aromatic hops, but it's a nice midfield hop, I think.
Yeah.
Whereas if it works with Citra or Mosaic, or the combination of them, it just lifts them up and gives them something to bounce off of, flavour-wise.
Lovely, fruity, sweet. I always think of kind of like clementines or mandarins or something like that. It's a sweet orange for me, it's Amarillo.
Yeah.
And a little bit forgotten nowadays when people are going bonkers for kind of like Simcoe and Mosaic and Citra. I mean, people are going an Equinox and things like that. They're very much in demand. Things like that get a little bit left behind, but
so it's a little bit like those. Gives you the flavour of those little mandarin segments that your nan used to put in the jelly.
Absolutely. They're in a green tin beneath a sink.
Yeah, you take the lid off, and they were just like these slimy things that had all the skin removed that had been sat in a sticky syrup.
But obviously an English thing.
I was going to say, again, that's going back to the early days where references to English sweet things are completely lost on you, aren't they?
We used to just walk outside back and
an actual mandarin, yeah.
So, what was I going to ask? So they've obviously released these two beers at the same time. Is it because you were saying a little bit earlier that they did a smaller batch of, which is why they've gone now. I think they came out. When did they come out?
About a week ago,
and
as this show's gone live,
they've disappeared.
And they've gone very quickly because they're in very limited quantities, and it's probably a good point to thank Cloudwater for getting these beers to us. Rob originally sorted out that we'd get the beers from them. They were delivered to Little Leeds Beer House for us, so massive thanks to Rob for sorting the beers, Little Leeds for taking delivery of the beers, and to Cloudwater for making sure we got the beers in our hands to record on their week of release. But yeah, these are in very limited quantities, and that's the idea of releasing them together is, again, it's a bit of an experiment for the brewery. They want to know what people prefer and what flavours that they prefer, because they're then going to use that, taking that into the version 6 recipe. Or is it the version 8 recipe that I was reading last night on Twitter? Basically, they're going to use whatever comes out of this experiment in future versions of the DIPA.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One thing I love about it is there's no profiteering about this exercise. They're not just chucking out two dippers in quick succession to make loads of money. They're actually wanting to understand how they develop their process, make a better beer, and get interaction and feedback from customers. I mean, it's not a cheap beer, but it's not a cheap beer to make. But I'm really impressed. Even they came, as you were saying, very limited quantities. One brew, I think, split that batch into two fermenters, treat the beer slightly different during fermentation regarding the dry hopping, and then I think the cases were essentially mixed. My local bottle shop got one case, so I think that was 24 bottles, 12 of each. That was it.
Yeah.
But they weren't kind of charging you £12 a bottle because there's less of it. Same price as last time. There's something kind of right about this approach.
And I mean, Rich up at Little Leeds was saying that the bottle shops have actually had to apply to stock this beer. They've had to fill out an application form to actually be able to stock it this time round. They've just not gone to you know, their standard distribution outlets and say, "On here you go, here's the beer." People have had to actually kind of, you know, apply for this. So, you know, I'm really grateful that we're sat here as we're recording this. This is barely a week old. This in the bottles, this beer, so it's pretty fresh. And hopefully, people listening to this have been able to get hold of some bottles and they're able to kind of drink along with us and experience what we're experiencing right now.
And this V4 is a really nice DIPA, isn't it?
Yeah.
Getting towards the end, and biscuitiness is coming through, toastiness is coming through.
A little bit more on the malt,
which is what I like to see in a beer. You know, you're getting all the hops and the juiciness up front, and then you're settling into just something to wind down with.
I think it just goes to prove that any IPA that comes in a package with a green label is going to be good. And I think we've seen that time and time again with IPAs.
Well, the next one's got a blue label, so that would probably be shit. But we'll get to that in just a little while. Steve, have you got any news for us, mate?
Yes, mate. This week's news. Let's hopefully do a bit of a better job of it than I did with last week's news. So, Thornbridge and Waitrose have announced the annual homebrew competition in the UK. So once again, we've seen this the last couple of years. Winning entry will see their beer produced by Thornbridge Brewery and go into Waitrose stores. If anybody wants to enter, they've got to have their beers ready by the 30th of August and sent to Thornbridge by the 30th of August. More information is available from gbhomebrew.co.uk if you want to find out how to enter your beers and the categories that you can enter. Some news about the cask report, which is an annual thing that CAMRA produce. Last few years it's been produced by Pete Brown. The news this week was that it's its 10th anniversary this year, and they've got a new author for it. Sophie Atherton, who we did the Beer Nation with last year, is going to be the author of this year's cask report. So it's probably going to have a bit of a new look, a bit of a new feel. It's great that they've got a female beer sommelier doing it now. So it'll be interesting to see what Sophie brings to it, because she's very knowledgeable. That came across in the Beer Nation.
Good on you, Sophie.
And she likes a clean pair of socks.
Does she?
She does.
Okay.
She admitted that when we were up at Brewdog.
Random fact. There you go. 4 Pure Brewery have created a new beer, which they have named Switch House, to celebrate the launch of the new Tate modern building on the South Bank. It's a 4.8% pale ale, and it's apparently refreshing, very balanced and drinkable. Well, they would say that about their own beer, wouldn't they? It's been brewed and canned within a couple of miles of the Tate building, which I don't think you can argue with, but will also be available at all national Tate outlets, including Liverpool, St Ives, Bankside, Modern, and exclusively off-trade through Wheelie Ball Beer. So if anybody fancies trying that, that's where you'll be able to get hold of it. And then the final one for this week, we saw the schedule for London Beer City announced last week, and it is once again a packed schedule running from the 5th to the 14th of August. There are some amazing events going on across the whole of London for that entire week, once again encompassing the Great British Beer Festival and the London Craft Beer Festival. For all the information, head to londonbeercity.com for details on the events.
Very good. Right, shall we get into the second?
Yeah, let's give this one a go.
So this is DIPA V5 with a lovely bluey purple label. Same hop list as V4, but it's
essentially the same beer, yeah.
Well,
but it's
essentially the same beer until it comes out of the bottle, at which point it looks completely different from the first one.
How strange.
Look at that. That's Merc. That's Manchester Merc at its best.
Northern Merc.
Look at that. You cannot even see through that.
No, you can't. And we're in quite a bright room.
Yeah, we've got the sun glaring through the window behind us. So we're holding the glass up, and you cannot even get a ray of sunlight through that beer.
Oh, and the nose is quite different as well.
Oh, it's dank on the nose.
It's more assertive for me. Just in every sense, it's a lot more assertive.
Okay. It still produces a lovely, big, thick, fluffy white head.
Not what I call it. Mine's
Maybe it's just
if
me.
you pour it with a bit more skill, you might get less.
Hey, I like a bit of head.
I think I'm staying with you tonight, Steve.
I think
It
it's
smells
got a
a
lot of what was we had in the last one, but it's a lot more heightened.
Yeah, the aromas are there. For me, they're maybe a little bit little bit more softened. They're a lot softer.
Really? I'm getting a little bit of that. There's no Nelson Sauvin in it, but I always hear about when Nelson Sauvin's a bit too fresh. You get that slightly kind of the smell of like a petrol station forecourt.
Oh,
I mean, it's that kind of that petrol-y nose.
Mm.
You do get some. You could also say smoky bacon. It's just a hint of it.
Yeah, it's a bit
But I think-
it's a bit messier than the last one, I think.
It's not as clean, is it?
Everything's
Yeah.
a bit more jumbled up. I'm not getting any distinct notes from it.
I'm getting, like I say, I'm getting a dank aroma. I'm maybe getting some fruit, maybe a little bit of mango, a little bit of peach. It's not as pronounced for me as the previous one was.
Maybe it's not as defined.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's more assertive, but it's just not as defined.
It's there, yeah. I mean, the other one was like straight away, I'm mango.
Yeah.
Drink me.
Okay.
This
This
is like,
is just kind of like crazy, slightly hot,
yeah.
kind of madness.
Well,
Let's dive in.
let's sniff
Yes,
and more
yeah.
Sutton. Cheers, guys.
But I prefer that.
I do. And now I've drunk it, on the mouthfeel, on the
Mm.
flavours that you're getting in the mouthfeel, it's all so much more softer, it's balanced, it's still got an incredible body to it, it's still a bit thick. Again, hardly any bitterness at the end, so to speak of. I think maybe the malts are more pronounced in this one as well, so it's a much kind of bigger malty IPA. It's actually quite amazing that both of these beers started their life as the same thing,
Yeah.
and the way they've split them and done different things with them.
The very subtle thing with
Yeah.
it as well, and just the massive difference that makes.
You can taste the same beer
Yeah.
you can taste it, but you can taste the differences as well that come with that.
Yeah, I'm getting much more bitter orange from this, and maybe a little bit of lemon drizzle
Yeah, yeah.
in there.
Lemon drizzle, absolutely, yeah.
See, sometimes he pulls out these amazing descriptions of beer that nobody else has thought of.
A lot more orange, bit of grapefruit juice, lemon drizzle. 'Cause it's got that bite, and I think that's probably coming from the protein. Because I don't know if it's to do with like the flocculation of the yeast and stuff like that with these two beers, because that has dropped right. Pretty much.
Hang on, the what of the yeast?
All the proteins kind of grabbed together.
Rob, we're not on video now, mate. Nobody is seeing you doing this. Okay, remember we've got it's an audio audience.
I'm used to video.
So imagine two hands coming together and the fingers entwined.
Yeah.
That's the yeast.
So they kind of like clump together. I mean, a bit of homebrewing, you'll kind of see how these murky globs of kind of like yeast and protein kind of grab together, and probably that's what's happened with the first one, because it is relatively bright, and we were quite surprised by that. I mean, having the previous ones, we're expecting this beer. I think the second one, that's what we expect. I don't think it's a bad thing, what's happened with the first one. It's a real kind of, it's thrown me off a little bit.
It's an interesting experiment that they've done, and let's also just stop and think for a minute that now in the last year, Cloudwater have produced 5 versions of a double IPA in the last year that have all had subtle differences, and I don't know what they're building to. I don't know whether they're just going to continue with versions until they run out of numbers, or whether they're eventually going to get to a point where they settle on a recipe and they'll be like, that's it, that's the recipe that we're prepared to pin our badge on and say that's our double IPA.
See, I think that would be a bad move. I think the fact that they're constantly iterating on this recipe it gets people talking.
Yeah.
You could have, I mean, they're basically putting out an IPA every few months, which everyone does. Except everyone else just does the same recipe constantly.
And it lends itself to Cloudwater's ethos of seasonal beers with what ingredients are available, and I think it's great to see. And you know, we've seen this week the clamour on Twitter to get their hands on this beer has been almost unprecedented in terms of people desperately trying to get hold of this.
And the fact they're not being really cynical and putting out a huge batch. raking in the money from it.
Yeah.
Probably their investors might be going, why are you putting up such a load of beers and raking in the money? But it's really nice to see an approach to this that isn't cynical and isn't like some other breweries you could name.
Yeah, from sitting down and talking to Paul on numerous occasions, for them it's all about kind of it's experimentation, it's learning, and it's constantly evolving and finding new experiences and learning from those experiences, and applying that to what they do. And I think that, and I mean, I don't want to paraphrase anything, but I think that's what kind of drives them.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's that kind of sense of kind of discovery. Because if you get up every morning, like if you work at Marston's and you get up and work and brew pedigree or whatever every morning, it becomes dull.
Yeah.
You're keeping work interesting, and it's...
There's an achievement in consistency, but if you're in it for the art, then...
But there's also an achievement.
Excitement in doing pedigree.
There's an achievement in putting out 5 dippers that have all been uniquely different.
Oh, absolutely.
And have all been very, very good.
Yeah, process
as well.
Spot on.
Yeah.
They know how to do that, and it's ironing out that process and nailing that, and then you can just have a little bit of fun in between and just play around and adventure around in your little style. So that's what I love about IPA. I drink a lot of IPA. I'm known as Hopzine, so therefore this is what I'm thinking. This is what I'm interested in. This is the kind of beer that I drink, and I love the breadth of style of IPA. You mean whether it's black or kind of a session or whatever, but even within a very narrow spectrum, how you treat a beer can be so different. Different hops, different kind of temperatures. It will make so much difference. And even if you're into a certain niche of beer, like I am, you'll still be treated to a lots of variety.
I think that's a good point, Rob, and I think it's probably fair to say at this point that when we invited you on for your third appearance, the first words that you said to me was, "I'm not doing another dark beer. I want to do something big and hoppy." And the planets kind of aligned, and we managed to get hold of these. So it's been great to sit down and try these two fantastically hoppy, hop forward, incredibly creative, inventive beers that Cloudwater are coming up with. And I know, also chatting to Paul recently, that version 6, they've been invited to take part in a festival in America, which is like a big festival that they're going to.
Cool.
And that they want to make sure that they take version 6 to America, and it wows the American audience as well. So that's kind of, they're building towards version 6 being this incredible hop monster that will blow away the American audience. So if you kind of, I think if you take a little bit of version 5, what they've got there from that dankness, and add a little bit of that clarity from version 4, I think you're almost going to have the beer that they want to take to the American audience and start to win over that audience with as well.
Mm-hmm. So looking at these two beers, because despite the fact that they're essentially the same recipe, which do you guys prefer of the two?
Oh, I don't think you can do that. I don't think
I
you can make me choose that.
I'm going to make you choose it.
Okay.
Because they are two quite different beers.
Yeah.
So, Rob, you seem to have a clear idea.
Version 5 for me, all the way. I really appreciate what they've done with version 4, but it just feels a little bit restrained in a lot of ways. And I think Cloudwater, they blazed the trail for this kind of IPA, which has been influenced by what's going on in Vermont and New England and stuff like that. The hazy IPA, blimey, I mean, a year ago, the idea of even me, as a hardened beer geek, would contemplate drinking an IPA that looked like that, I'd have been concerned about how my stomach would feel in the morning. So they've made some. Obviously the trend is going in that direction. These guys have absorbed what's going on there and understood and translated that into what they do. But cloudy IPA is completely acceptable now in the UK, and it's people want it.
It's not something we should shy away from. I think it's an interesting one, because for me, I suppose if I'm going to compare the two beers to other IPAs, double IPAs, the version 4 is very much the Brewdog Born to Die. It's clean, it's clear, it's crisp. It's it very much wears its colours on the outside. Version 5 is more of the kind of, you're getting into Magic Rock, Human Cannibal territory, where they're not afraid of the fact that it's cloudy because all the flavours in there. I thought initially I was going to go for version 4 as being the better of the two, but the more I drink a version 5, the tastier it's becoming. Although I do have this blend here that I just made of the two, which is I think it's about 2 parts 4 to a part 5.
Okay.
So I'm going to give that sit here in my little corner and give that a go to see if I've created the perfect beer. While you tell us which one's your favourite, mate.
Well, I think version 4 is what a lot of people have come to expect from. They walk up to a bar and ask for a double IPA. They're expecting essentially version 4. So a nice clean-looking beer, one which has very pronounced separate flavour profiles going through it. So we got the mango straight away. Then we had other bits and pieces coming through. Whereas version 5 is the kind of beer that if a craft wanker got it handed to them.
It's the perfect beer, isn't it?
Yeah. It's an experience of the beer.
Yeah.
It is one that stands out, and we have seen other hazy IPAs out there before, but the good ones aren't very common. And this is a really good hazy double IPA. So I prefer number 5 actually.
Ooh.
I think that's a unanimous vote for number 5 then, isn't it?
And I'm going to do a blend as well.
Yeah, don't that because
Give us your review of the blend.
it doesn't work. It's it almost feels like the two styles have reacted to each other in the glass, whereas you would hope that they would come together to kind of form this uber beer. Kind of like the Power Rangers did. They all came together into this big monster that would then fight the creature.
The Thundercats.
Yeah. It just it's just a mess. It's a bit of a mess. It's the aroma's all over the place. And the flavours just aren't working together.
It's very odd, that, isn't it?
It actually tastes like you've poured 2 beers into a glass, and you haven't. Have a try of that and see what you think. I'm not sure that works, and I know Cloudwater have been encouraging people to play around with it a little bit.
There's something that
doesn't work.
There's something from the first one that I get from that again. I don't know if it's something to do with mouthfeel, but it feels like my tongue's been numbed.
Yeah.
I'm getting this thing on my tongue. It just feels like I don't know if it's coated or been numbed, but weirdly that's the one which is clearer. It's very odd.
What's weird is there's a mid-palate bitterness and then there's nothing.
Yeah, it's
goes. Yeah.
My view on that is drink the beers separately, and enjoy them separately, and
because they recommended to do a blend on.
Yeah, and they did, and they wanted people to experiment with it, and they want the feedback from it, and I will give them my feedback from that tonight, because I think it's great what Cloudwater are doing with beers.
Yeah.
They are open to public feedback. They listen to that feedback. They take that into their next book, particularly with the DIPA series as well. Is that they are listening and they're always trying to improve on that. So yeah, but yeah, that's not right. Get me back to the version 5, because that's where it's at for me. The version 5 is the one out of these two.
But do you think that's down to your expectation of progressive IPA? I don't think I could come up with a more wanky phrase to ever say on a podcast, but I think that might be it. If there's an award.
Okay. Those people that like using Mark quotes and Steve quotes can this week include the hashtag Rob quotes, or Hopzine quote, or wanker quotes. I don't know what it is. But no, I agree with what you're saying. It's interesting because I'm going to go back to the comparison that I made of the version 4 to the Brewdog Born to Die series. Now we've seen 3 of those iterations of Born to Die. For me, the one that has been the best has been the second one, which absolutely nailed a double IPA for me. It was everything that I wanted from a beer. That's very much what the version 4 does. It's a clean, crisp IPA. Version 5 is absolutely everything that I want in a UK double IPA right now. It's not trying to emulate America. It's actually saying, you know what? Actually, we are creating our own style here in the UK. We are beginning to create the UK DIPA. And I think if anybody's going to do it first and really nail the style, it will be Cloudwater.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That's a segue, isn't it, if I've heard one?
I was going to say, I've lined that one up beautifully, just hoping Mark comes in right now.
And saying that, Steve, you put out a question for this week's Hop Onions.
Hop onions, yes.
Go for it.
Okay, so
Onion.
no, it's
Opinion.
opinion, but
I like it.
people like to get mixed up with it because it looks like onions. So who knows? So this week's opinions was to tie in with what we were doing tonight and a few beers that have been released last week and that have come out this week as well. The question was, have we reached peak DIPA for 2016? To which I gave people the option of 3 answers, which was hell yes, bored now, or what is peak DIPA. 55% of people went for the first one, which I've forgotten what it was now, which was hell yes. No, hell no. Have we reached peak
Hell
DIPA?
yes.
No, it wasn't. Hang on, we might want to start this whole thing again.
I think you've confused this massively.
Okay, so have we reached peak DIPA for 2016? Hell no, bored now, or what's peak DIPA? So those were the 3 options. 55% of people went for hell no, in terms of they don't think we're there yet. It's irrelevant what the rest of the people voted for, as we've seen in the last week or so. The minority doesn't matter anymore. But I'm just going to, as usual, read out a few comments before we get into our opinions. So Joe Tyndall at Fatal Glass says, it depends. I want more tropical fruit juice style DIPA and less hot boost. I don't think boost is the right word. Sticky, overly sweet DIPA. PJ McCary says, only in the sense that I'm struggling to get all of it in my face. What a time to be alive. Bob Maxfield at Bob Maxfield said his opinion is, I love all the great beer being made, could just do without all the fanfare. And that was backed up by James at Bunglatron. Might have said yes before today, but I could still do without the fanfare. However, I'd be lying if I said I didn't contribute to that fanfare. Sean Smith at Clem Sean said, the more the better. They all bring something different to the mix. Fraser, aka Hop Dude at Hoptimistic Dude. Too many on the DIPA bandwagon, in my opinion. We need good British IPA breweries to challenge Cannonball and Axe Edge for the best IPA first. Not sure about that one, we might come back to that. And then finally, Ronan Flynn at Zapmatic said, actually, we might be closer to reaching peak session IPA, which is possibly an opinion for another day. So that's the views of Twitter this week. Rob, we always go to our guests first. What's your view on this? Have we seen too many dippers this year?
No, never. I mean, a point of recording, Vocation are just about to launch there, so a week after they'll just launch their Smash and Grab. So there's been a lot going around, and no, because I remember a couple of years ago, as breweries kept opening up, I mean, at the start of the boom, there was this concern about the bubble bursting. The bubble is expanding. I don't know if it's hemorrhaging. It's quite yet, but it continues to expand, and it's not burst. And there's absolutely opportunities for new interest. With once upon a time, and this is an odd thing to say, Cannonball was the IPA in the UK.
What do you mean was? I'm not. I don't understand that statement.
Because the progression of the style. I mean, and Cloudwater are the progression of the style in my eyes. Really are. Cannonball's amazing. It's a fantastic, consistent beer. This isn't intended to be a consistent brew, as you were talking about earlier. Are they trying to settle on a dipper?
Yeah.
I don't think they ever will do.
They'll keep going.
That's not what they're doing. But Cannonball is that beer, and that's old school West Coast kind of IPA.
What do you think then of Fraser's comment there in terms of we need UK breweries to brew something that will challenge the likes of Cannonball and Axe Edge first before they start thinking about just brewing dippers because everybody's brewing a dipper, so let's brew one.
Personally, I was thinking about this earlier today actually, and I think the big thing that the UK beer scene should do and hopefully will do at some point is lead and not follow. At the moment, we're trying to reach the heights that American breweries, the innovation of the likes of Treehouse and Trillium and Heady Topper, Alchemist. That's what this beer is. That's what this beer is trying to grasp at and trying to achieve. But where is our innovation? Where's our progression? Because we're kind of seeing this. We start it all. We started IPA.
Yeah.
And where does our kind of little thing? So we're learning from everybody. We're learning it's a bit of Belgian. We've had a bit of Belgian IPA. We've had some German hops in an IPA. We've got this now. I think that's where my interest lies. Where do we go next? Yeah, where do we go next?
What do we create now?
We, as a beer brewing nation, Germany, Belgium, England, well, the UK in general, we're kind of like traditional brewing nations. America isn't, so they innovate continuously, and as it's kind of like structured at the moment, we follow their innovations, and I'd love to see. It's exciting.
It's
but
very exciting.
Let's us see.
I'd like to come back in a year's time and say, right, okay, well, from that point, where has IPA in the UK gone?
Free of a kind. So Freeze Company from Cloudwater and Magic Rock. That's dipping the toe in the water. I think that's really exciting because the yeast that they're using in this has a history back in a traditional English yeast strain, but the innovation and the interest was seen overseas.
Yeah. Mate, I know you're not a massive fan of IPAs.
I couldn't care a shit.
Okay, fair enough.
but I will say I voted asking what is Peak Dipper.
What is Peak Dipper?
Because the only time I ever pay attention to a double IPA coming out is when Cloudwater puts out a Dipper because it's nice to say Dipper.
It's interesting. I mean, for me, it's interesting because I don't remember a time when we've seen as many dippers as we've seen this year. I mean, April was just fucking ridiculous in terms of all of the dipper releases that there were.
What were the standouts
other than the obvious ones? Yeah. The one that still stands out for me is Kingmaker by Buxton.
Really?
It was.
I thought this year's
didn't they come out last year as well?
No, Kingmaker was the first time, and I'm not disagreeing with the Unhuman Cannibal.
See, in years gone by, I wasn't.
Oh, that came out at the same time as Unhuman
this year.
Cannibal.
I thought it was really good
because I remember the excitement that you were showing on Twitter about Kingmaker coming out.
But
it was
Buxton slipped out Kingmaker with no fanfare whatsoever, while Cloudwater were banging on about version 3 and Magic Rock were releasing Human Cannibal and Unhuman Cannibal and Brewdog were releasing their latest Bombs Die. In the background, Buxton just went, hello, we've got a double IPA right here.
What was that like?
It was different. But it was refreshingly different. I can't remember exactly flavour-wise, but it was what I loved about it was the fact that they put it out with no fanfare.
I think you ordered a box of it, didn't you?
No, that was in there. But the thing that stood out most of all about that was that it was in my hands 3 days after it had been bottled. So the distribution of that beer was fucking bang on.
To you?
Well, no, this via eBrea. That was via eBrea. So you ordered the beer via eBrea.
Cool.
Buxton bottled it on the Monday, and it was in my hand on the Wednesday. And I was like, well, that doesn't deserve to last until Thursday. I'm drinking it tonight. They've made every effort to get it to me tonight. But it was, in terms of its flavour profile, it's completely different from everything else we've tasted. However, that being said, what I have really enjoyed about the dippers this year has been the variation in flavours, the way people have been playing with styles and different flavours in it. I mean, the recent, the Beavertown Boneyard Bloody Notorious,
Very
a
nice.
double IPA that's like a double blood orange IPA, which is almost like, we spoke about this last week. It's the big bastard brother of Bloody Hell. We're going to be doing it in this month's flavour of the month, so we'll be banging on about how great it is then. It's great to see so much going on, but I'm just, if I think about 2016 and how many dippers we've had between April and July, there have been a lot, and it's been probably 3 times the amount that we had in 2015, and 3 times the amount again that we had in 2014, and it worries my bank balance in terms of 2017, in terms of how many dippers are we going to see during this season where the hops are at their freshest. So I don't think we've reached peak dipper. I think we will see more and more dippers coming out. But what I want to see is I don't want to see breweries just following one another. I want to see each brewery carving out their own unique version of what they believe a dipper to be. And I think, again, let's bring it back to the beer that we're drinking tonight. That's what Cloudwater are doing with their series of dippers.
Absolutely.
They're carving out, they're saying we're going to keep changing this up, we're going to listen to the feedback, and we're just going to keep making the beer that we want to make.
Yeah, absolutely. Focusing on, in Cloudwater in particular, focusing on innovation elsewhere. Who's doing the best IPA? We need to be in league with those guys. Who are they? What are they doing? What can we learn from those guys to make better beer? But it doesn't mean difference, bad. And exactly. It's always exciting to find something that is wildly different to anything you were completely expecting at any other time.
I mean, and again, going back to one of the comments, maybe not for Mark, but what a great time to be alive for a beer geek. Or you're getting all of these hops, all of these double IPAs, all of this innovation in your face.
Yeah, as long as they do keep innovating and they're not just like Rob was saying, following people's coattails and just brewing the same old shit.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
Cloudwater, obviously with their version series, is continually iterating on what they think they want to do next as a dipper, and that's what everyone should be doing, really.
Yeah. Can you imagine the beer geek community if Cloudwater ever announced they were doing a triple IPA? I think Twitter would break.
I hope they don't, though.
No, I hope they don't, because I think actually what they're doing with the double IPA series is enough. I don't think they need to go further than that.
I want peak saison next.
Imperial saison?
No, not Imperial saison.
Not
Good old
double
Triple saison? Triple sour saison?
I will fucking throw you out in the street, Rob. You're here with me, mate. Right, okay, let's wind down. Steve, you got your phone in your hand. What's the Instagram of the week, mate? Who's getting the prize?
Instagram of the week could only really be a picture of one theme this week. As we are sat here drinking the most anticipated beer release of this month, probably. This week's prize. Hopefully, I've not got to send this massive box of nothingness too far, because this week's winner is Northern_Beer Geek. So I'm hoping I can maybe just drop it off on his doorstep or something. I don't even know who this guy is.
I'll pass it on.
It might even be a woman. Who knows?
How sexist of you.
I know. Let's be non-gender specific. Who basically posted a picture of what we're drinking tonight, which is the 2 bottles of the Cloudwater Dipper in 2 Cloudwater glasses, and you can clearly see the difference between the 2 beers as they've been poured there. That could really be the only thing that could win this week. So that's in the show notes. You can look at it. It's on our Instagram feed. You can have a look at it there as well. If you want to have a go at winning the great big box of nothing next week, put a picture up on Instagram. Use hashtag cheers, guys, and if it's the one that I like the most, because yes, I'm that fickle, you will win the great big box of nothing.
And speaking of next week, mate, what's coming up?
Next week, it's probably the highlight of people's seasons. It's the homebrew special next week. People, we love the homebrew special. Yeah. We always do. We've got a particularly spectacular one coming up next week. Hopefully we're not going to have a beer that hits the ceiling this time.
I was going to say I'm going to clean off our desk. Make sure
get the towels out, get everything ready for the exploding bottle. We've got 3 beers that hopefully encapsulate summer. So we've got Rob Woodland is coming on, also known as @Nostromo Brew on Twitter. He's given us summer IPA. I think he's given us an American summer IPA. Paul Hadfield, not sure on his Twitter handle. We'll share it next week. He's given us a summer saison, which is will be nice in balance to the IPA. And then Rich Caller, who we've had on before and was the first person to ever give us a homebrewed barrel-aged breaded thing, which blew us away at that time. He's back and he's given us a homebrewed barrel-aged stout that's been breaded as well. So
Mark's gonna love that.
it's going to be it's a great selection of beers. I'm really looking forward to it. We love the homebrew shows. We know that our listeners love the homebrew shows. So looking forward to that one next week, mate.
Cool. And Rob, where can people find you online, huh?
On Twitter, Hopzine. On Facebook, Hopzine. On Instagram, which I'm doing a lot more on, is Hopzine Rob, and most importantly on Periscope. Don't forget about Periscope. Every Thursday.
I love your Periscopes.
Oh, thank you very
I love
much.
getting involved in your Periscopes when I can as well.
I try to every Thursday night from about 8 o'clock. I'll be on for at least an hour. We talk about beer. It's a very much a two-sided conversation. I want to know what you guys are drinking and stuff like that. And that's something I'm really kind of like, I work really hard at kind of doing. And I'd like to say, probably this has been one of my favourite things that I've done in the last 7 days.
What, tonight?
Yeah, one of the
brilliant.
favourite things.
Thank you.
They come up with something interesting.
Yeah.
One of the favourite things in the last 7 days. I won't say a highlight, but I mean,
I know where you're going with this. Just say it. You know you want to.
It's been the highlight of my week.
I'll let you have that.
And of course, people can find you on YouTube as well with your beer review
Absolutely,
series, which
yes.
is fantastic, and I always check in on it.
Oh,
Mainly so I know what to say about the beers that are coming up on the show. Many thanks to Ales by Mail, Beautiful Beers, Beer Merchants, Ebria and Hot Burns and Black, who will now offer a 10% discount to Beer O'Clock Show listeners on any beers from their website. So go to our website at beeroclockshow.co.uk and check out the Season 10 beer list, and the discount codes are at the bottom as well as the links to everyone's website. You can find us on Twitter at Beer O'Clock Show. You can find us on Instagram at Beer O'Clock Show. You can find Steve on Untapped at Beer Show Steve.
Yeah.
I'm on Untapped at Beer Show Mark, and I'm also on Twitter at Beer Show Mark. And we're on Facebook.
We are on Facebook.
Let's have a look. Have a search for Beer O'Clock Show, and you'll find us there. Steve's posting old episodes on there, as well as the latest goings on. Right, that's it. Rob, thanks very, very much for joining us in our little cubby hole
Thank
in
you very
Leeds.
much.
Yeah.
Been a pleasure to see you again, mate.
So I've been part of the first ever, probably live recorded Beer O'Clock Show.
Yeah.
With guests.
With guests, yeah. Because we
In
have,
studio.
yeah, in situ. In Leeds.
It's the start of something big.
Yeah, it is indeed.
I travelled up special today just for this.
Me too. About 15 minutes.
2 hours, 15 minutes for me.
Yeah.
Steve, till next week, pal.
It's been the highlight of my week,
Oh,
Rob. It's been the highlight of my week.
don't doubt it.
And mine. Until next time, bye-bye.